Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talking Television Podcast with Jay and Chris. And tonight I'm excited because we're not talking about Chernobyl, which was so dreary and hard to talk about last week.
It was very hard.
Oh, God. I'm sorry, guys, keeping the energy level up on that one. But if you watched last week's episode, you know how just sad and gruesome it was to watch. So,
yeah.
Not like this was a whole lot better. We had some pretty brutal fight scenes in this episode of Warrior.
We did, but at least they weren't killing puppies. So.
Yeah. Well, before we shout out what we're drinking, I just want to throw a shout out to one of our commenters that's been around since the beginning of Warrior. So, Private, we see you out there. Thanks for watching and listening every week. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks for watching.
Yep. And anyone else that wants to leave a comment, we read every single one. So, go ahead and leave them below. So, what are we drinking tonight?
Tonight we're drinking Jim Beam. This is the black edition. It's a little extra aged. Their bourbon is regularly priced, I think, less than $30, I want to say. It's got an okay flavor to it.
Yeah, it tastes solid to me. I think that's the best description I could say. I mean, it's a solid bourbon. Nothing crazy good. Nothing like the Four Roses like last week.
Yeah, that's by far, I think, the best whiskey we've had, over the course of this whole podcast adventure. So if you guys have not checked that out, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and I will not be doubling down on the gym this week like last week where we were pretty far into the bottle.
Yeah, that was a good one. Next time.
Yeah, maybe next week for season finale.
Yeah, gotta do something big for that.
Before we get into the episode, let's talk about Rich Ting and his Aftershow. Warrior After Dark.
Yeah, somebody picked up the grand prize.
Yeah, if you guys are watching on YouTube, this is a limited edition Dim Mak collection shirt, and it came in his box of goodies that he sent me for winning the grand prize.
Yep.
So the question he had for his grand prize was, what type of kung fu is the primary type that his character Bolo uses on the show? And I was the only one to get it right, and it's Hung Gar. So, so I won. I'm super excited. Thank you, Rich. We tune in every week.
Yes.
So,
well, besides the shirt, what else did you get?
So have a whole box of goodies. Okay. So we got a whole bunch of personalized posters, which I'm not going to hold those up in frame here. But
quite big.
Yeah, very large posters. Also got this cool Warrior pin. It says, "This isn't China, this is Chinatown," which is kind of their tagline.
Yep.
Also got a set of some chopsticks, which also say the same thing. One of them says, "This isn't China." The other says, "This is Chinatown." And lastly is this Warrior cup. So it's sort of a metal coffee mug here. And once again, also has the same slogan on there. So, Rich, we are enjoying the cup here with our little bit of Jim Beam.
Yeah, cheers to Warrior After Dark and the grand prize winner.
Rich is continuing to give away more prizes, so join him on his Instagram at RichTingWorld after both the East and West Coast showings of Warrior. Let's talk about this episode. Chinese boxing.
Yeah, Chinese boxing. It's definitely been a fight we've seen coming for quite some time, and it's finally here, and I don't think they disappointed. It was a very good fight.
It was a long fight, too.
It was quite long. Close to 10 minutes, I'd say, of screen time, which means they must have shot hours and hours worth of days, footage to get that scene down. But yeah, the episode starts off with it doesn't focus on the fight right away. It's kind of a little subplot building of Leary talking with Mercer about the upcoming contract that he was just awarded for the railroad.
Yeah.
And Leary's putting pressure on him, right off the bat, saying he wants so many guys, 12 guys doing this. And, Mercer says, well, you only need 8.
Yeah.
Well, and they compromise, right in the middle at 10.
Mm-hmm. Which kind of comes around later in the episode.
It does. Yeah. Leary's fighting for getting the Irish workers a job. And Mercer can provide that for him, and he's kind of under his foot as of right now.
Yeah, this Mercer guy, man, he just keeps backing himself into a really bad corner. His daughter ended up having to marry the mayor for him to get a contract, and now he's getting squeezed on labor. Later on in the episode, he's getting squeezed from someone else.
For price, yeah. So he's kind of a rollover, just doing whatever he needs to do to get paid, basically. Otherwise, it's going to be sayonara to his business and his wealth. But once we get that scene out of the way, we go right back into more some like training sequences for Li Yong and Ah Sahm as it's building up to the big fight that happens.
Yeah, and we see Ah Sahm back on the wooden dummy again with some weird like over top camera angles, like spinning. It's kind of cool.
Yep.
And then before we get to the fight, we actually see Jacob, Penny's valet, show up, and he shows her basically this little advertisement for the fight and kind of tells her what's going on. So we know that she's going to head down there and maybe interrupt it or, kind of just show up and cause a scene.
Exactly. Even though they had previously had a falling out, and you could tell she still has feelings. Mm-hmm. She's not going to, sit idly by while something like that's going on. So, yeah, she's going to find her way down and cause a scene.
And Bill and Lee, we see them strolling through Chinatown, kind of commenting on, it's so quiet, where's everybody at?
They show up and it's like dead silence. Nobody's in the streets. And they, finally find some people like, what is this, market? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
A festival? And yeah, they stumble down into where the arena is, the fight's happening. And they're like, I had no idea this place was here.
Yeah, we didn't even know this was down here.
Huge, like, cavern-like atmosphere, and they had this, stage set up where
with
they were
like VIP
fighting.
Suites over top too.
Yeah, I wonder what do they normally use that for? I doubt it's always a ring, but I don't know. What's it used for in the off season?
Yeah, so they run into their buddy Chow, and they kind of start questioning him, and he goes, "Oh, it's like a prize fight. You guys understand? It's like fighting." And they're like, "Oh, okay." So, Bill does what he does, and he throws out a bet.
Yeah, put 5 on the tall guy.
Yeah. He still hasn't learned his lesson.
No. And, it's Bill. So, you know where the money's going to go.
Yep.
Not in his pocket.
The scene itself, we know it kind of looks or reminds us of Bloodsport or Enter the Dragon with the fights going on. But I really like the camera work pulling up from the mat through the ring of fire all the way up to the ceiling.
Yeah, that's a really iconic shot that they've been promoting for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they didn't disappoint with that. And like you said before, they had the 2 little boxes right on either side where the Tong leaders were sitting and, viewing the fight. So it's almost like a little Gladiator-esque, if you remember, Gladiator the movie, they had the boxes where the Emperor would sit and watch.
Joaquin Phoenix, could do his thumbs down. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, and then we get right into it, and it's a really good fight. I mean, it's kind of back and forth, but our buddy Ah Sahm kind of has the early lead, and
he does.
We knew it wasn't going to last, but I thought it would have lasted a little longer, or he would have got the advantage again.
The fights. Let's talk about some of the moves they did because they were pretty epic.
Mm-hmm.
They had some good combination moves, in midair almost, kicks, counter kicks, and leading back and forth.
Yeah, without cutscenes at all.
Without cutscenes in the middle, so you could tell it was actually them, doing these moves, and I think they did a good job with it.
Definitely.
And there was a lot of them, like we said. It was like almost 10 minutes long.
Yeah, there's a couple of moves that definitely stuck out. Ah Sahm had a little midsection punch right to the sternum to Li Yong.
I think that was one of the main turning points that gave him the advantage. It was crippling to Li Yong, and you could tell he was doubled over in pain. He could barely breathe, and at one point he puts him. Ah Sahm puts Li Yong down on the mat, and you think it's over.
He thought it was over.
He's kind of doing his little victory, kind of hovering over him. Li Yong's not moving at all. And he goes in for the sash around his midsection because that's the goal is to remove the sash from your opponent, and that's how you're declare the winner. And of course, it can't be over that easily. So he goes in for that, and Li Yong, boom, he pops back to life basically, and yeah,
he came out with a couple of really big spinning flying kicks too that were pretty brutal.
Yep, that and a double punch. Right to the ribs.
Yep.
Which did some damage.
Not as much as that punch to the nose. Oh.
Yeah, his face went flat.
Yeah.
Broken nose. Something bad happened in there.
Yeah, that was some good CGI work. It didn't. It looked real.
It did. Yeah. Instantly, puffy eyes. So yeah, Lee Yong, he takes it back and he pretty much puts him down. And going back to that gladiator moment, he looks up to Mai Ling for, affirmation of what am I going to do here?
Mm-hmm.
Basically thumbs up, thumbs down type
Yeah,
of
this
deal.
is your brother.
And she gives him the look to go ahead and do it, to finish him off.
Mm-hmm.
Basically a thumbs down.
Yeah, and the only way he escaped that is Big Bill realizes what's going to happen and pulls out his gun and shoots it in the air to kind of stop the proceedings.
Going back to, Penny, she's in the room. She sees this all happening. She lets out a scream. Bill fires his gun, and essentially all that commotion is what saves Ah Sam's life, because Lee Yong was, ready to make the snap happen.
Yeah, so not only did this probably take a couple days or weeks or whatever to film, but at each part of the fight, they probably had to stop and do new makeup again to add more and more like puffiness and blood and everything.
That must have been really detailed, and they did a very good job with it.
Yep. So in the end, Ah Sahm loses.
And he does. Father June's not happy. He pretty much walks out and says it's over.
Yeah.
Before it gets to that point where Lee Yong is behind him about to break his neck, he just kind of gets up and leaves. And Young June, of course, is like, that's my boy. He's not out until
he's not out yet. Right.
It's not over till it's over. Nothing he can do.
So the only reason that Father June even allowed him to fight was Young June vouched for him and said, he can fight just as good as Bolo, and he can win for us. And he tested him, and
Father June tested him. I'm assuming it was his method. However many guys he put in place there, and surprised them. So if he didn't think he could fight, he should have picked somebody else.
He should have picked somebody else.
I think he's just as much to to blame, if you want to say that, for his loss as anything. But yeah, obviously he's kind of done with him at this point. He lost the battle.
He wants him out of the Tong.
He wants him out. And Young June, what's he gonna do? He puts up a little bit of a fight, but the leader has spoken.
Yeah, so before the fight, Young June comes and talks to Ah Sahm, basically to say thank you for doing this. He tells him you didn't have to fight, but you really are. And Ah Sahm kind of goes, I don't have to? And they kind of look at each other knowing
don't ruin the moment.
Yeah. They kind of leave a little breadcrumb that Ah Sahm doesn't want to be in this fight. And that kind of reoccurs again after the fight's over, where they say, Ah Sahm didn't have anything to fight for. He was just trying to show off. And that's why he lost. Versus Lee Yong, he was committed.
Right. I think it's when he's kind of recovering at Toy's place. She's nursing him back to health after the fight, because he's in a hot mess. I mean, he looks horrible. He can barely breathe. He's hallucinating. I mean, he's just out of it. And after he's recovered a bit, he says to Toy that, Lee Yong, he's the better fighter. I knew this was going to happen. And she said, no, he was fighting for what he believed in. That's the reason he won. Like you said, he didn't have the heart in there.
Mm-hmm.
And if he would have really been, fighting for what he wanted, then he could have won. But not necessarily that Lee Yong was the better fighter.
Yep. And that's really the big highlight of this episode, was that fight. And afterwards, we get some flashbacks, which we'll talk about, but there wasn't a whole lot after this. It was just a lot of recovery time.
Yeah, he's kind of reminiscing about the past and having those flashbacks, like you say. We do have a little bit more with Buckley. He's causing some more mischief. He goes to visit Mercer, and what we find out a little bit later, he says, "Hey, congrats on getting the first bid, but there's many of those to come. You got the first purchase order, but it doesn't mean you got all the work. And we've got another bidder come in that's significantly cheaper, about 15% less. Are you gonna match that? Otherwise, we're going somewhere else."
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of takes Mercer aback, like, shit, what am I gonna do? I thought I had all the the contract for this whole railroad, and leaves him thinking, what's he gonna do? Well, we find out a little bit later when the mayor confronts Buckley about this, that he just made it up.
Yeah, this totally out of the blue. There was no other bid.
No, it's just Buckley, kind of causing
Stirring the pot.
Yeah, stirring the pot, exactly. Trying to maybe save some money for the city because the mayor's budget is bloated, he says. So, according to Buckley, he's doing it for the mayor. But obviously, it's kind of Buckley's own interest. He's kind of got his hands in other places, and he really doesn't care about the mayor.
Yep, and Buckley, when he is talking to Mercer, he tells him that basically the only way these other guys have a bid that low is they're using Chinese labor instead of the Irish. And, Mercer just made a deal with the Irish, so is he going to have to cut that deal short?
Buckley knows that, he's in trouble if he has to go with hiring the Chinese.
Oh, yeah.
And then once again, that'll cause maybe some more political gain for Buckley to, expose and, prevent from happening. So he's got his games he's playing, and Mercer's kind of getting the brunt end of it right now. So we'll see if Mercer buckles or not.
So we did get some flashbacks for young Ah Sahm, and he was we see him. He was picking fights after his grandpa died with bigger and badder guys. Trying to show he's big stuff, and he didn't know how to fight, and he kept getting beat up. But eventually, his sister brings home a new Sifu who ends up teaching him some kung fu, and we see some really beautiful shots of them out, next to the mountains there, just, learning their different katas and stuff.
Yeah, basically Ah Sahm becoming the fighter he is today. Kind of the process that he went through to get where he's at. And yeah, it's pretty cool to see that. And when they were younger, Mai Ling, Jin Zhao, as her original name was, and Ah Sahm, they seemed pretty close. And obviously things happened during their lives that kind of brought them to where they are, where she's willing to let him die to become in power.
Yep.
And that's a pretty big jump we see in one episode, is the childhood, how close they are, to nowadays, how far apart they are.
Mm-hmm. So. And shout out to Sifu Shannon Moore at the Columbia Martial Arts Center. While Ah Sahm is recovering, he actually starts doing some hallucinating and thinks he sees his sister there, but he doesn't. He sees a toy.
Right.
And Lei or Lai, we still haven't figured out how to pronounce her name yet. Basically, the two of them are just kind of nursing him back to health. And eventually Penny shows up and says that she misses him. But one thing I noticed is Penny and Mai Ling both had the same color scheme going on, like an olive green. So I don't know if that means anything, or it just happened to be
just happenstance. Yeah.
We'll coincidence.
That green has a meaning, but yeah, it was definitely noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
We also see it seems like a meeting where Mai Ling is officially named, the leader.
Yep.
Of the Long Z, and she's not 100% welcomed in. She gets a little bit of opposition. One guy in particular speaks up and, calls out her for being a troublemaker, for, we were perfectly fine before you showed up.
Yeah, you started this war.
Yeah, you started this war when you started sleeping with, Long Z and
Li Yong.
And Li Yong, he points that out too, which Mai Ling kind of has to hold Li Yong back a little bit because he wanted to tussle. And yeah, this is where we see her asserting her dominance, becoming the tiger that she wanted to be. She does a speech, gets up, walks around the table, and pulls out one of those little quick draw guns like we saw Chow have a couple episodes ago, and pops the guy right in the forehead.
Yep, he's out.
And he's gone. So yeah, she's shown her dominance, that she's willing to take out her opposition any means necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mess with me.
We also see Bill and Lee questioning Chow a little bit later on, trying to find out about the swordsman from the murders last episode. And basically Chow says, "Oh no, we don't use swords here. We're too modern for that."
Yeah, nobody uses swords nowadays. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And their position is, well, you don't see white guys going around swinging swords. It's got to be a Chinese guy.
Yeah.
And Chow's like, we don't use swords. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
So we'll see where that goes. I wonder if he knows more than he lets on. If he's aware of Atoy's, nightlife activities. So we'll see. See if he can keep a secret.
Yep, and then we see Young Jun one last time. Comes and basically breaks up with Ah Sahm. The bromance is no more. But he tells him, hey, if you're free to go. You can't be in our tong anymore. But you also can't join any other tongs, because if you do, there's going to be a dollar amount out on your head.
Yeah, that's big time. Wow, where's he going to go?
Yeah.
At this point, his sister, I don't see him going that direction.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of disowned him, wanted him dead for her own gain. He's out of the hop way. Yeah, we'll see what episode 10 brings.
Yeah, I think it's almost good for him because he never wanted to be in the hop way to begin with.
Right.
But he did like that, that brotherhood there. So we'll miss, seeing the two of them together.
Or maybe not.
We'll see.
We'll see. Time will tell.
The last scene, we see Bill and Lee. They kind of split up. Bill walks away, and then our buddy Lee gets jumped, and he takes out a couple guys. He's got some good fighting skills.
He does, but the Fang Hai, I think he's the leader at this point.
Yeah, Zing. I think he is the leader now.
The big guy got poisoned.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Zing, he's, Lee's no match for him. I mean, he tries to put up a good show, but he just gets his ass whooped, and he gets laid out unconscious, and you see Zing throw like a little token, a calling card with his symbol on there. And yeah, we'll see what it means, but I think it's a message for Bill, because Bill still owes big money for his casino debts.
Yep, to the Fang Hai.
So they've been unsuccessful at getting to him. So next closest thing to him outside of his family is his partner,
Lee. Yep.
So I think Lee's in a pretty rough spot, and promos for next week we see. I think all sorts of hell's going to break loose in every little relationship they got going on. Bill's upset. He's going to be fighting. You got the Hopway, Long Z. Everybody's going to be going at it.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to wrap up all these plot lines in one episode. But I think they knew that there was going to be a season 2. And JT talked about having a plan for multiple seasons. So
exactly. 2, 3.
I think most of these will move, continue on into season 2. So
right.
But there's got to be a couple to get wrapped up in the next episode. I think the mayor's out. We've been waiting for it all season. He's got to go.
He's got to go.
And they did say long live the queen next episode. So is that going to mean Penny, or is it going to mean Mai Ling? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it's got to be, Mai Ling. And as we know, Atoy, she's got her little game she's playing, trying to buy up some property, get some position that way. So we'll see where their places land at the end of the season. What kind of major cliffhanger they give us to, savor for the next year, basically.
Yeah, come back and join us next week after episode 10, the season finale. So we will probably do a little bit longer episode and kind of recap the whole season. But we are going to be tweeting live during the finale, so find us at Southport Media. And if you want to see our next episode, please subscribe, and it'll pop up in your feed next weekend.
Exactly.
So thank you all for listening.
Yep, thanks again. We really appreciate all the support, and hope you guys come back.
And you can try the Jim Beam Black. It's solid. That's the only adjective I have for it.
It is solid, yeah.
It's solid. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Bye.